This podcast is sponsored by the Music Player Network at musicplayer.com, the premier musician resource for keyboard players and beyond. Since the year 2000, the Music Player Network has been the go-to source for news and views on music technology, playing tips, and gigging help. The Keyboard Corner is one of the longest-running keyboard forums in internet history, with guitar, bass, drum, and numerous recording and music tech forums also on offer. Frequented by weekend warriors, manufacturers' representatives, and professionals alike, MPN provides an invaluable resource for any musician, and it's 100% free to sign up and use. Go to www.musicplayer.com to see for yourself.
Hello and welcome to episode 33 of the Keyboard Chronicles, a podcast for keyboard players of the gigging variety. I'm your host David Holloway, and it's great as always to be here with you. My esteemed co-host Paul is out on the road with his band, which I know he's extremely grateful to be able to do given the present circumstances worldwide, so I hope you're having a ball, Paul. I'm very pleased today to have a very different type of guest, a guest that's in the early part of their career, and one that's immersed in the world of blues and boogie-woogie and roots and country. Veronica Lewis has been going gangbusters in her career to date, and I cannot recommend more highly checking out some of her work before you listen to this episode. And there are links in the show notes on keyboardchronicles.com. It really is worth a look because her passion for music is likely to take her a very, very long way, let alone her absolute talent as well. I think her enthusiasm, as you hear it throughout this interview, will be infectious, and I hope you enjoy the interview. Veronica, thanks for joining us on a Friday night. It's a big sacrifice, and we appreciate it.
Oh, of course. It's my pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
No, look, it's absolutely my pleasure. So you're an interesting guest for us, Veronica, because a lot of our guests we tend to interview, midway through their career or later, where they've got, sort of 20, 30, 40 years of experience. And one of the reasons we approached you to do an interview is we thought we'd take a little bit of a different tack and talk to someone that's obviously an exciting musician at what is essentially the beginning of their career. So appreciate you doing it from that viewpoint as well. So I thought we'd just kick off with, tell us what got you into music for the first time in the recent, I'm guessing, in the recent decade.
Yeah, well, I started playing piano when I was around 6 years old, and I'm totally self-taught with piano, and I just learned by listening and improvising and just writing my own music, even when I was first starting out. And I guess the way that I really got into the music was, I just found blues and I found boogie-woogie and that early rock and roll music, and I just really fell in love with it. Even at 5, 6 years old, I just listened to so many different kinds of music, modern and, music going back to like the 30s and 40s even. And I just really, even when I was that young, I really was just captivated by this music. And it was something that I was really excited about, and I still am, and I still love. And that's what inspired me to start wanting to play it for myself.
Yeah, no, that's great. And so I'm fascinated then with the, as you just mentioned, the blues and boogie-woogie and so on. How did you discover that? I'm assuming you had parents or someone else that put you onto that?
Well, my grandfather and I were very connected through music. He actually lost his sight when he was 15 years old. And so the only way we really connected was through music. And,
Wow.
He definitely, I wouldn't say he ever, told me a specific artist or genre to listen to, but he definitely instilled this love and kind of hunger for finding new music and new artists that I was excited about and that I loved. Because I think, as starting out as a, a piano player, just one of the biggest things that kept me motivated to keep practicing was that I loved the music that I was always listening to and always trying to play and write. So I think definitely I was given at an early age just like a real love for music.
Oh, that's amazing. So your grandfather would get out, I don't know, CDs, vinyl records or whatever, and just put on some artists, and you just grew to love it that way.
Yeah, definitely. Like, he actually was a bass player, but he had to stop playing because his fingers
Yeah.
would grow the calluses, so he couldn't read Braille. But yeah, like we would totally, we would listen to all different kinds of stuff, and if I was really enjoying something, of course, he would, recommend stuff that was, like kind of artists that I was enjoying at the time. And even when I was, 5, 6, I definitely enjoyed listening to all different genres too.
Yeah, that's amazing. So how did you make that jump then from I love this music to I want to play piano?
Well, I mean, the real I think genres that got me were boogie woogie and
Yeah.
New Orleans style piano and that early rock and roll, Jerry Lee Lewis and Little Richard and Katie Webster, and once it's so fun to listen to that kind of music, and I just one day I just sat down. I'm like, let me just try to figure this out on piano, and it all came from like learning and figuring out the 1-4-5 progression and like the 12 bar blues, which is like the structure for a lot of all those great songs. And once I kind of understood the very basic kind of form of the songs, I was able to start writing and coming up with kind of similar songs of that style. And then I started progressing and practicing so much more.
Yeah, okay. So, and I definitely want to cover the songwriting in a little while, but so the self-taught, you obviously just mentioned picking up the 1-4-5. So, you obviously had access to a piano somewhere, and was it a matter of just listening to the music and doing it by ear, or luckily now we all have YouTube and other things to teach us some of this stuff. Like, how did you progress that at a young age to actually teach yourself?
Yeah, well, it definitely started with figuring out, the 1-4-5 and kind of trying to, listen to definitely like early recordings and also, YouTube videos as well of, definitely some of the YouTube videos were, like recordings of Ed Sullivan shows from the
Yeah,
1950s of Jerry Lee Lewis just like rocking it out with, a whole lot of shaking. And
yeah,
I think definitely watching those recordings and just seeing how the piano was just brought to such a different light, with those pioneers of rock and roll, where it wasn't just kind of a background instrument. It was brought to the front of the stage, and there was so much excitement and power with the instrument. And definitely listening and watching those videos helped to figure out that progression. And then, like, yeah, once I figured out kind of the structure, then I was able to just improvise a lot over it just all the time, and kind of create my own kind of style with riffs in the right hand while still keeping that left hand boogie woogie bass going.
yeah. And so, how old roughly were you when you were starting to pull the two hands together and playing at that sort of level?
Yeah, I mean, even when I was 6 or 7, I started kind of, like I like to call like the one note boogie woogie, where I would kind of just have the left hand going with the chopped bass line, and then I would just kind of hit like a chord or maybe like a note or
Yeah,
two if I was really crazy. And then I think it was definitely pulling together the hands and, being able to have them like almost autonomous on their own was the hardest part.
yeah.
But definitely right away I tried to really work on it, even though it was really, really hard. But that was definitely how I was able to grow so quickly with it, is because I really focused on bringing the two together. Definitely.
Yeah, and so I mean, at age 5 or 6 or 7, to have that focus, obviously the passions there, and I'm assuming, did you have people? I'm guessing your grandfather, but did you have people, either at school or teachers or someone that kept you motivated, inspired, or mentored you and helped you along the way?
Well, definitely like, my mom, my parents for sure, they were really supportive of, my interest and passion for music and piano. And actually, when I was 6 years old, before I started playing, we rescued this old, like 100-year-old upright piano from a neighbor's barn. They were just going to throw it
Wow.
out, burn it or something. So we saved it and we brought it home. And that's kind of, once the piano was in the house, that's really when I started getting really, really excited about the idea of learning to play. And definitely my parents are huge supporters and very grateful for all the enthusiasm that they have for my music and what I'm doing.
No, that's amazing. And I apologize, I did forget to ask at the start, what state of the US, I know you're in the East, but what state in the US do you live?
Yeah, I'm in Massachusetts near Boston.
Massachusetts. Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So, and so growing up, obviously, family supportive. Did you start doing any performances for other people? Sort of, when did that kick off for you?
Well, when I was, I think I definitely did some kind of, piano recital when I was in like second grade, when I was, I think around 8 years old. So that was probably the first, public appearance. But, when I was around 12 years old, I started singing, and then I started writing full songs with lyrics and, these piano compositions I have been writing. And so, around 12, I started kind of regularly performing out. And yeah, it was definitely, I think, around that age, I actually won, like I was named the Youth Blues Artist of the Year in New Hampshire, because I also spend a lot of my time in New Hampshire as well. And that was when I was around 12. And I got the chance to perform in Memphis, Tennessee on Beale Street. So it definitely
Wow.
started the high gear when I was, 12, 13.
Even I know Beale Street. So sadly for people like Australians like me, we only tend to know Beale Street from the Mark Cohen song "Walking in Memphis." But even I do understand that how iconic that street is. So that's amazing. So obviously, and what do you recall your first? Your first, what I would say, true performances on places like Beale Street or those sort of gigs. Do you recall your first impressions of what it was like, playing at that level? Obviously, it was a buzz, but were you hooked for life from the moment you started that stuff?
Definitely, definitely. I think, performing it's such a different experience than just writing and then playing and rehearsing at home. And, I think honestly, one of the first, big shows I did and was on Beale Street, and it was at one of the, famous clubs down there. And it was definitely intimidating when I was, I was 12 years old. I had never
Yeah,
really done a lot of performing, and it was the first time on an airplane. Like it was just so much. And but definitely the performing was something that I just immediately fell in love with. And even that first show on Beale Street, I think I had to go on right after Barbara Blue, who is like a regular down on Beale Street, and she's known
wow.
as the reigning queen of Beale Street. And she had, a full band and like a horn section.
Oh,
And
gee.
I was just going on after her like solo with just my piano and, a microphone. And, after that show, honestly, I've never been that nervous before
Yeah, I can
before.
imagine.
But yeah, going back to, what you were saying is, definitely I got hooked immediately on performing and being in front of, an audience and being able to just throw myself into what I'm playing, and have people, excited about it too in the crowd. It's great.
That's right. No, absolutely. And I obviously not mentioned even the fact that, and we'll be linking to a couple of your videos in the show notes, and you've obviously got an album out and so on. Is aside from the incredible playing, is you obviously can. You're not just some scratch singer. You're obviously a great singer as well. So have you had support? Obviously developed your singing voice. How'd that happen for you?
Well, first, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And also, yeah, I first kind of started singing in an amateur way when I was like 12, and then back in 2019, only about a year and a half ago, I started working with a classically trained opera singer, and that really opened up a whole new world for me. And I was able to really, kind of find, I guess you could say, my voice and
Yeah.
understand, some better vocal technique. That just learning how to breathe properly, because that's having
Mm.
control of your breath is a really important thing when you're singing, and that all the little techniques that opera singers use, even though I'm obviously doing a different style. It's once you understand how to sing properly, I've just been able to apply it to kind of the style that I'm doing, and it's been a really, really cool to be able to jump into this different instrument, into the voice, and also still be able to write and play so much with the piano. The two go together so well. It makes it
They
even more
do.
fun.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. No, couldn't agree more. And the obvious third part of this is the songwriting. So I believe that everything on your album, and most of what you do is self written. So I mean, again, that's a third skill that takes a lot of development, let alone this early in your career. How's that gone for you? It's obviously going well, but how have you developed that? It's just, you mentioned from 5 or 6 started making stuff up. It's just progressed from there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, first when I was playing piano, it all started from improvising over, the 12 bar blues structure. And, obviously it just started out as writing piano compositions, like piano songs, instrumentals. And then right when I started singing, I was starting to write lyrics and put it to the music. And, I've definitely fallen in love with songwriting just as much as I love playing the piano and singing. So it's just definitely a big part of who I am. And I've been able to develop with it. Just, I think because I started off just by basically writing and coming up with things, that's how I learned how to play piano. It's come second nature to write lyrics and put it all together.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And obviously, I'm assuming that a lot of your songwriting efforts are jamming at the piano and seeing what you come up with and going from there.
Definitely. Yeah, I think sometimes like the lyrics will come first, and with a lot of my songs, they all come from a either like a visual image that I have in my mind, or obviously a personal experience or a story that I'm trying to tell. And in those cases, I figure out what the lyrics are going to be about, and what kind of message I want to get across, and then I sit down at the piano and figure out how I want it to sound and how I want the piano to complement that. And then of course there are plenty of songs where I'm sitting at the piano and I am coming up with this really cool arrangement, and then I come up with and write lyrics that will go along with the feel of the music.
Yeah, yeah. And this is going to sound like a silly question because the blues obviously underpins pretty much every other musical genre that's come since. But I mean, are there times where you've written lyrics or other music you've gone, I have to work hard to make this fit the way I play, or you pretty much make things fit no matter what?
Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely bring together a lot of different genres in my style. I have, I'm kind of, because I listen to so many things and because I
Mm,
was inspired by so many amazing artists, I kind of bring together boogie woogie and blues and rockabilly and country and New Orleans
yeah,
style. I think kind of the common denominator of it all is me and my own kind of style that I bring to it, my vocal style. And to answer your question, I think I don't think I feel limited or at all, or like there's boundaries because of the style that I'm playing right now. But there's definitely songs that I've been writing recently in quarantine, of course, because nothing
yeah,
else to do. A lot of the time, it's just writing and playing. And so there have been some interesting songs to come out of this time that are definitely they still are infused with kind of my roots and the style that I play, but have some different elements, and like the lyrics and maybe the feel of the music is it's a little bit different, and maybe it's and I think it all still goes together, blues and roots music. It's all about being
yeah.
real and being authentic. authentic, and there's nothing more real than just playing something that you really, really love and allowing people to get to know who you are through your music.
That's right. And I can imagine it's a challenge, at the relative start of your career determining. I mean, to me, I couldn't imagine you doing anything other than the styles that you play in. And I'm sure as you progress, you're going to get, people, wanting you to do totally different things. And that's obviously fine as well. But it just seems such an inherent part of your approach, the way you play. It's incredible. Yeah.
Oh my God, well, thank you. And I've definitely completely fallen in love with, this kind of boogie woogie, early rock and roll sound. And I think, I first started out with this, and listening to this and writing in this style is what allowed me to discover this deep, deep passion that I have for music and for piano. And so I think whatever I do, and however I grow and progress as an artist, I'll always still keep these roots, very strong in my music, because it's a big part of who I am.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we're not a big gear nerd podcast by any means, Veronica, but just interested, obviously, as a piano player, I'm not expecting you to go into much detail about your rig, so to speak, but what is your go-to piano that you play, whether it be, digital or an upright or whatever it is? What are your key instruments that you love playing?
Well, I think, it's always a treat to be able to play an actual piano. That's what I have. I've only ever really had one piano, and it was the one that we got when I was 6 years old. It's like 100-year-old upright, and I really, really love writing on that and practicing on that. So, totally, that's definitely the instrument of choice. Or, if I ever by any chance get to play, a grand piano or something at a venue. Like just today, I was checking out a local art center to do some live stream shows, and there was this amazing Steinway 12-foot grand piano,
Wow.
and I got to sing and play some songs on that. So it's always a totally different experience than playing a keyboard. So I would say that's my favorite for sure.
Yeah.
If I had my my dream, I would be playing a Steinway. But
Yes.
most of the shows that I've been doing, I just have a keyboard.
Yeah.
It's easier to work with.
And I noticed with one of your clips you had a kawaii, but do you have particular, a go-to digital keyboard that this is what I now love playing, and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think for sure, like the kawaii, I believe that was in my official music video. Yeah, I love that keyboard, and some of the times as well when I'm touring or traveling or whenever that happens ever again, there'll sometimes be keyboards at the venues, which makes it a lot easier for traveling. So sometimes there'll be like a Roland or a kawaii. So I think it definitely most of the time depends on what's at the venue.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough too. And so you've mentioned a couple of times, obviously, COVID-19, lockdown and so on, and you haven't played for a while. So are things, you just mentioned a live stream, are things starting to pick up where you are now, where you can look at playing some gigs in the near future?
Well, I think I did just sign with a booking agency, Intrepid Artist International, and so that was just recently, and that's really an incredible opportunity to have.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we are of course starting to think about the possibilities, and right now where we are, it's a little bit uncertain to say the least. So I think for the near future, or at least for 2021, just staying with outdoor, shows and
Yeah.
festivals. So I think I do have a few things lined up for maybe the end of the summer, but they're all outdoor. And then hope maybe next year, 2022, we might start with some regular indoor touring as well. But I don't want to make any promises, because safety is definitely the priority. And I don't, as an artist, I definitely feel a responsibility to make the safest decision possible, since I'll be asking people to come to shows, and everybody behind the scenes at shows is putting themselves at risk with with the indoor kind of performances. So hopefully we can start it up next year with more regular, but for now, just staying with outdoor and live stream stuff.
Yeah, no, great outlook. And so you also mentioned that you've been doing lots of songwriting. So you've obviously got the album out, which has been really well perceived. So what's the plans for sort of the coming 12 months as far as new music?
Yeah, well, I just released, You Ain't Unlucky. And so, of course, I've been doing, like you said, so much writing. And definitely there is a lot of new music in the works. And I know that I'm going to continue to keep releasing music soon. So definitely I could see another album sooner than later for sure. I think in lieu of all of the live shows, I think it's so important to stay connected with everybody, whether that be virtual performances or releasing new music. So I think that's a big part of what's going to be happening. Definitely.
Yeah, and so I'm making a big assumption here, Veronica, but over the next couple of years is the intention to, and I apologise, you may have already finished school. Are you planning on doing this full time?
Well, yeah, I'm a senior in high school right now, so I graduate in June, and honestly, I haven't really made a decision really about college or anything like that,
No.
but because I know 100% that music and hopefully touring and releasing new music obviously is the top priority. So I would say yes, I'm going to be pursuing music and my career full time. So there's definitely no slowing down in sight.
No, great. And I can only imagine it's such a lot of hard work to keep one's profile, in music and let alone making a living out of music via, your streaming platforms. Because as we know, and I know this from bitter experience, they don't exactly pay well. So I think, the live performance coming back and that I could see you having some great success full time outside of the album stuff. So yeah, it sounds like it's an exciting time of your life.
It definitely is. And, even though it's a little bit weird right now without being able to travel and tour and see people live, I think it's been incredible, all the support I'm receiving for my music and for this album. And honestly, like just I'm overwhelmed with gratitude for everyone's support and a big thank you to you, David, too, because this is amazing to hear your encouragement and support behind what I'm doing. It really means a lot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, it's our pleasure. And so we've got 3 or 4 final questions that we always ask every guest. And the first one, which always usually gets a few laughs, is the train wreck question. So an on stage train wreck, and this might be more difficult for you to relay given it's your voice and you're playing and you do it so well, but have you ever had a massive technical failure or other embarrassing time on stage?
Oh gosh. Well, there's obviously when you're performing live, it's not a question of, if something is going to go, wrong. It's always when. And I think, oh gosh, well, I think one of the biggest technical failures, I think, was in my monitor, like in front of me, the sound guys had somehow rigged like a microphone in their sound booth, so I could hear them like arguing with each other during my entire set, like just like screaming at each other, and no one could hear it but me because it was in my only monitor.
Oh, wow.
So that I had to just kind of plow through because it was definitely I didn't want to make it awkward for anybody. But that was definitely a pretty technical fail moment.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's one I haven't heard before. Yeah, that would have been. Did you end up telling them afterwards, or you were polite and just let it go?
Yeah, I told them afterward. I'm like, I think I could hear your microphone line in my monitor, like after, but they were definitely a little bit embarrassed for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great. And then there are the 2 questions I did try and give you a heads up on. So. It sounds like, given the amount of music you love listening to, when you mentioned, I'm sure you do, pre-COVID, love going out and seeing other people play. Are there keyboard players that inspire you? So we call it Tag a Keyboard Player. So a keyboard player you'd love to hear interviewed themselves. Does anyone come to mind? And it can be more than one person, obviously, as well.
Oh gosh. Well, I think a big one for sure is Katie Webster that comes to mind.
Yep.
She was just an incredible, boogie-woogie, piano player, singer, and songwriter. And, I think her energy and her songwriting was a big inspiration. But of course, like Ray Charles and Jerry Lee
Mm,
Lewis and Little Richard. I mean, there's just Otis Spann, Fats
yeah.
Domino. I mean, I could go on forever. Don't give me a question like that because I won't
No,
stop.
true.
Stuff. But definitely, I think Katie Webster's a big one for sure.
Great. No, love it. No, that's excellent. And then the biggest question of all is the Desert Island Discs. This is the one that stresses our guests. So 5 albums, if you're able to, that you couldn't live without if you're able to narrow it down. It doesn't matter if you can't, but if you can, we love hearing about them.
Oh God. I think the way that I honestly listen to music a lot of the time now is I listen to individual songs and I
Yeah.
like kind of compile them, like just so many songs, like just hundreds of songs. But oh my gosh, I mean
Well, actually,
any
that's a really good point. No, it's a really good point, Veronica, because habits have changed. If you had to explain 5 playlists you've created, what are the 5 playlists? What's contained in those as far as style or era or that sort of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think for sure a big one that I always listen to is like boogie-woogie piano playlists. I think it's just so cool to listen to all those early players like, Meet Lux Lewis and Pine Top Perkins and Otis Spann. It's kind of that's why I love listening to different songs because I get to hear kind of a compilation of all these different artists coming together, any early rock and roll kind of rockabilly playlists to even if it isn't, per se just, piano kind of blues songs, I still really enjoy hearing from, the songwriter part of me. I love listening to any like, old classic country too.
Mm,
Just really like I have a Patsy Cline radio because I love Patsy Cline so
yeah,
much, as the singer. And, I think, too, definitely like Americana is a big one too that I love.
yeah,
Even modern artists too. Like I really enjoy, of course, like Freddie Mercury and even Avril Lavigne. Like it
yeah.
really spans just like so many eras that I could just go on forever listing the playlists. But
Yeah.
I think I can give you a good kind of overlook.
No, that's a good. I like that. No, that's good, and it's something different as well. So no, love it. So no, look, can't thank you enough for taking the time, Veronica. And I mentioned in the introduction to our listeners, we came across your video on a musicians forum at musicplayer.com from keyboard players, just showing your video and how amazing your voice and piano was. So it was lovely to just stumble across that by accident and then get to have a talk to you. And hopefully, and it sounds like you might be doing some international work in the coming couple of years, given you've now signed up with Intrepid. So hopefully we see you down here at some stage.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's also so exciting that you guys just kind of came across my music. That's super cool and I'm so glad you did because this is an honor and it's so cool to talk with you and meet you over the phone, I guess. And yeah, definitely international shows and travel. I can anticipate happening if not next year, then hopefully the year after that.
Yes.
And Australia is definitely on the top of my list. I've always wanted to go and I can't wait to visit there and play there one day. Hopefully soon.
And there we go. So I hope you enjoyed that interview with Veronica. As I said in the introduction, her passion for what she does is obvious. Her talent is even more obvious. And if you didn't have a chance to listen to her music before that interview, please do take the time. There's some amazing stuff both on her YouTube channel, obviously streaming via the major services and so on. Yeah, just amazing artist to watch. So yeah, thank you for joining us again. We'll be back in a few weeks, but just a reminder, you can keep in touch via a few means. Our website is www.keyboardchronicles.com. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/Keyboard Chronicles, or on Twitter at the keyboard CHR1, number 1. If you like good old-fashioned email, then do drop us a line at editor@keyboardchronicles.com. If you'd like to become an official supporter, we do have a Patreon account where for the price of a coffee a month, you can help us go from strength to strength. And again, a huge shout out to the wonderful people that do support us. and that is at www.patreon.com/Keyboard Chronicles. So yeah, thank you again for joining me, and look forward to being back with you in a couple of weeks. So thank you for listening, and hope to see you back there then.